r/paranormal. What is some things you swear you saw, but have no proof of? What is something you swear you have seen or experienced? Edit. Thank you all for sharing your experiences. I will read the rest when I wake up. The morning of 9/11 on my way to work. Before the attacks, I saw a cloud formation of a horse and rider. I remember thinking if I didn't know better, this is revelation. Got to work and found out what happened. I don't expect anyone to believe this. I wouldn't if I read it. This is one of my earliest memories, so I must have been pretty young, probably not older than 5. I remember seeing a cat-sized elephant, and I remember lifting it up. That's pretty much all I remember, but who knows, it could have been my imagination. Here's another strange occurrence in my childhood. I saw a dream where I saw a teeny tiny dolphin made out of glass. I liked it, so I hid it inside my cupboard. I woke up and checked my cupboard right away, and there it was, the glass dolphin figure. In college, I woke up in the middle of the night and saw someone next to my bed praying. I looked at him, and then he noticed me and got angry. I turned the lights on and he wasn't there anymore, but I was wide awake. When I was 8 years old, I turned my TV off to go to sleep and saw a full-body skeleton against my far wall. It moved when I called to it, and I ended up hiding under my blanket. It truly made me a believer in the unexplainable. I have 3 that no one believes, and probably have reasonable explanations too, but my experiences felt very real to me. 1. When I was around 6 or 7, our family was having a Christmas party. Me and some of the other kids were goofing around in my backyard in the dark, climbing on my swing set. We were talking, and for some reason we all looked over the neighbor's fence at the same time. And sitting outside his back door under the back porch light was a being that looked exactly like E.T. I know how crazy this sounds. One of the older kids yelled, "Holy sh! That thing looks like E.T." And everyone ran for my house, except me. I completely froze because I was so scared. I remember just staring at it in disbelief. Its skin was this washed out color, and I remember thinking maybe it's my imagination. Maybe it's a pile of clothes or something. And that is when it turned its head and looked at me, and I fell off the swing set in a panic and screamed and ran for the back door. The kids had locked it, and I was stuck sitting under my porch light screaming and crying, trying to get in my house, but no one could hear me because the party inside was so loud. My grandma ended up finding me a few minutes later and let me in. She saw how scared I was but didn't believe what I saw. She ended up letting me go to her house to spend the night because I was too scared to stay home too. When I was 11, I was outside at night climbing on some logs from a tree my dad had cut down in our front yard. Me and this kid, son of my parents' friends, were sitting way up high on this pile of logs telling jokes, looking at the sky, when we both saw these weird lights. The lights were similar to airplane lights at first, but then turned solid white and darted straight up from where it was up into space. It just disappeared in a split second. We both looked at each other and just started running to get in my house. Both our parents were sitting around talking and playing cards, and we told them what we saw, but they didn't believe us. 3. When I was in my early 20s, my roommate had a lot of weird paranormal stuff that seemed to follow him. I had a lot of different experiences while living with him that never occurred before or after we were roommates. The one that really got me was one night I was up late working on a drawing in our living area and had my headphones on. I remember getting horrible chills on my back and a feeling like something bad was gonna happen. I tried shaking it off, but then I swear I could hear someone talking, so I took off my headphones. I took them off, turned around in my chair, and stood up. I stood there for a minute when out of nowhere the light above the front door started shooting sparks and making this crazy noise. It felt like it went on for a minute, but it was probably just a few seconds. When it finally stopped, I managed to finally take a step and walk to the switch to turn it off. Then I went to bed. I don't know how to explain it, but something was angry I was there. We lived together 2 years and had constant weird stuff like that happening. Posters ripping off walls when we would leave a room. Shadows in the hall at night when no one was there. His girlfriend saw a shadow figure too and thought it was me, angry about her parking in my spot, but I was on a week-long trip at the time. I don't talk about it anymore because the few people I told at the time thought I was being ridiculous for entertaining the thought. I saw a demon in Walmart. Was walking toward the pharmacy with my now ex-wife and saw an old lady sitting on a bench by the exit. Her eye sockets were black voids that left cracks down her cheeks. We kept walking, but I was weirded out. Once we were out of earshot, I asked my wife if she saw that creepy old lady with black holes for eyes. She said no, so we backtracked to check her out. In the 30 seconds it took to turn back, she was gone. That particular Walmart is creepy as hell at night, but this happened during the day with lots of people around. My now wife and I had started dating in the summer of 2001. There had been a steady stream of coincidences that brought about our meeting in the first place, and other events. Not all were good, not all were bad. But there was enough that we and several others had noticed and periodically talked about it. Random example was taking my son to the airport to put him on a flight across the country. Standing in line directly in front of me was a dear friend and his wife heading out to some random part of the world on a different flight. Constantly things like that. It was getting weird. A few weeks before 9/11 I told my future wife that I felt that there was something major going to happen. I couldn't tell whether it was bad or good, but just a rising feeling coupled with increased very odd coincidences and circumstances. Then 9/11 happened, and my father passed away several days after that and related. The weird feeling I had stopped, and the universe seemed to behave more normally towards us, or whatever its new normal ended up being. I can't help but feel that something was trying to reveal itself to some of us. When I was a kid I seen a flying car. My dad, my younger brother and a friend of ours was outside at night with my dog. We was just standing around waiting for my dog to do his business. We see a can in the sky. It was a really old looking thing. You could see the wheels turning, no sound. We got my dog and went inside. When our friend's mother came to pick him up, she told us she had seen the strangest thing and told us what she had seen. It was the same thing we seen. Where we live there's been a lot of odd things that have happened. My grandpa watched a hearse stop and a pick up a body from an ambulance on the side of the road and both leave with no lights flashing or anything. Lots of people out here have stories of strange things they have seen or heard. A turtle with wings. My family said I was making it up or I had a dream about Super Mario Brothers, but I swear to this day I saw a turtle with wings. I was around 6 at the time, which would have been around 1989 to 1990. Double sun. Group of acquaintances disappearing and appearing on their short way. A sitting immovable guy with 3 faces and empty eye sockets in the dark school corridor. My grandma could heal warts, burns, and bleeds with touch and talk. She taught it to me and I can still do it. Do you know how to teach others? I can teach to a certain extent, like the touch and the spoken word, but it relies on the faith of the practitioner for it to work. That's very cool. I'd like to share my paranormal experience when I was 14 to 15 years old. I'm 26F. I had plenty of encounters, but this is one that nobody believes since I didn't have proof. For context, I lived in some apartments that had a swimming pool, and I lived on the bottom floor near it. I've had a few friends I would hang around with on or by what's called the transformer or the green box, which is those green generators. If you know, you know. Anyway, I was hanging out with a friend outside, sitting down on the transformer, and was facing towards where the swimming pool was. Management didn't really set up post lights there, so kids won't hop over the fence to swim after hours. They still did it, including me. So this happened around 11 p.m. to 12 a.m. and you could imagine it was really dark around that specific area. We were talking and laughing, so when one closes their eyes for a brief second when you laugh, you open them almost immediately. When I did that, there was someone sitting down on a big rock/boulder near the pool. I blinked a few times to make sure I wasn't seeing things. Then I saw her long, brittle, straight black hair. This unidentified woman had what seemed to be a worn-out, white nightgown. I could hear my friend still laughing from what we're previously joking about, so I turned her attention towards what I was seeing. Do you see that over there? It's someone sitting down, right? I pointed towards that direction. She takes a closer look, and she sees her as well. We both don't know where she came from, especially since I was the one facing that area the entire time, and never did I see someone walk out their apartment and sit down on the rock, let alone that late at night. We both stared at this moment, and my friend yelled at her just a hey. And then the girl turned to us, and her eyes were glowing yellow like the cats at night. We both ran inside my apartment. I was home alone, scared shitless. We started to ask WTF was that, and we both had no clue. We both had those shitty androids, so we didn't bother taking a picture of what we saw that night. I wish we did though. We could have had proof that we both saw something we couldn't explain. When I was 9 or 10 years old, my parents had enrolled me in swim lessons. On this particular day, my dad had gotten called into work during my lesson. He had to leave and my mom was on her way to get me but was going to be a little late. I let my teacher know and she told me I could just wait in the front behind the desk. After my lesson, I went and sat at the desk to wait. All the other students were gone and it was just me, my teacher, and one other teacher in the building. As I was sitting there, I swear to this day, I watched the other teacher walk across the water from one side of the pool to the other. Like on top of the water, I remember ducking down behind the desk because it scared the hell out of child me. And then I heard her say to my teacher, "Oh shit, I didn't realize anyone was still here." My mom walked in seconds later and I ran to her, dragged her out to the car and told her what I saw. She laughed at me and explained that people can't walk on water. Nobody has ever believed me, but it's such a vivid memory. I remember how still the pool water was before she stepped onto it. I remember her red Speedo brand swimsuit, and her saying the word shit stuck with me as a child. LOL. I also never saw that teacher at swim lessons ever again. I was 17 and worked at an Orange Julius Dairy Queen in a mall. It was the day before Christmas Eve and I was starting to close for the night. It was snowy and icy outside. A man walked up to the counter and he'd come out of an employee-only door between two stores. He was a beautiful man, very unusual looking. He had long red hair, pale skin, and golden brown eyes. He wore a strange brown three-piece suit. He looked about 25, so the old-fashioned suit seemed odd. He was barefoot. Up close his skin was flawless, like he didn't even have pores. He immediately gave me the creeps. He had very long fingernails. He fiddled with a gold pocket watch and stared at me. Then he said I should have someone escort me to my car after work. He laughed at me then left. Naturally, I had security walk me to my car. A man was hiding behind the car next to mine and ran when they saw the security guard. I have no idea what any of that means. When I was a very young child, about 3 or 4, I had this wild and vivid, Alice in Wonderland style of a dream. I don't remember a lot about the dream, but I remember it started mundane and normal. We were at my grandma's having dinner. My two brothers and I, for no reason at all, just fell through a void in the floor. We ended up landing on this huge wooden dining chair. We were like the size of bugs on that chair, and it was sitting in this dusty old wooden shed. We walk over to one of the edges of the big chair and look toward the ground. This tiny door, normal size to us though, on the very bottom of one of the walls opens up, and somebody tells us to come through the door. Don't remember how we got down off the chair, but we did go through the door. When we did, I'll remember it opened up into this very bright and colorful world. Everything in that world looked almost exactly the same as this one, except that it was almost like everything was made out of light. All the colors and everything shine kind of like sun rays do. Everything felt a lot happier and peaceful in that world too. That's about all I really remember about the dream as far as describing details go, but I remember living and staying that other world for a long period of time, multiple days, possibly weeks. Anyway, the dream ended abruptly and I found myself waking up in my bed. I start acknowledging the surroundings of my bedroom, then the next thing I know, a huge rush of fear hits me. I instantly feel something grab my legs and tries to pull me forcefully out of my bed. I look down towards my feet, and there is this witchy, old and ugly looking woman in a blackish robe reaching through my bedroom window trying to pull me out the window. I started crying and screaming, trying to hold onto my bed for dear life. She was cackling and making groaning kind of noises as she attempted to pull me out the window. I ended up losing my grip and she ends up pulling me out the window. But once I get all the way out the window, she just disappears along with intense fear I was feeling. It all happened before I could even blink, and I just fall on the grass in front of the window. When I got up on my feet and looked at the window I just fell out of, it was closed and locked. I was a little bit puzzled by that, but a couple seconds later I ended up just going back in the house through the front door. I vaguely remember just going on about the day after all that happened as normal. I never really understood what that dream was, or why when I woke up from it some old, black-robed woman was trying to pull me through the window, but it was a very wild experience that I have never forgotten about.
That's it for this video, everyone. Thank you all for watching. Please subscribe for more content like this in the near future. Until next time, the Alley Ghost.